Atari Soft Proving Grounds, Atari 8-bit and 5200 versus Colecovision, coming up next. Today we start a new series on the channel where we compare Atari Soft classic ports from one machine to another. We are not really comparing the merits of the machines against one another here. We've all seen that these 8-bit machines can be pushed to do much more than they were used for in the early 80s. That being said, we'll be showing these in worst to best order, ranking based on the overall quality of the port. There are 4 games by Atarisoft ported to the 5200 or Atari 8-bit, as well as the Colecovision. These are Centipede, Defender, Galaxian, and Jungle Hunt. Unlike the pure Atari system Proving Grounds, we will not be looking at any clones this time, only the official versions. As if we did clones of all these, the video would be hours long. We'll get to all of these clones in retrospectives in later videos. Let's get started with Centipede. The Centipede arcade machine, programmed by Ed Logg and Donna Bailey, was released by Atari in 1981. In this classic fixed shooter, the player is trapped in the enchanted forest, armed with only a magic wand to ward off the forest's insect denizens, all of which are attacking the player in continuous waves. You must use the magic wand to shoot sparks at approaching insects to score points by pressing the controller button. Holding down the controller button will set the wand in rapid fire mode. If the player is bitten by an insect, the player will temporarily be paralyzed and lose one of his 3 starting magic wands. First up, we have the 1982 Atari 8-bit computer port, programmed by Dave Coteau, which is by far the weakest of the 3 graphically, but it has the gameplay where it counts. Second, but pretty much ultimately tied for first, is the 1983 Colecovision port, programmed by Larry Clegg, and is considered by many to be far superior to the Atari 8-bit version, and I see why. But for me, it's a little too erratic gameplay-wise to take the top spot all by itself. Tied with the Coleco version, for my favorite, is the 1983 Atari 5200 conversion, programmed by Frank Hausman and W. Sean Hennessy. This version was later ported officially to the Atari 8-bits, and is for me my favorite port. The gameplay of all 3 are close, but this one looks and sounds the best. Notably, all 3 have the auto-fire option, and both the Coleco and 5200 could be played with dedicated trackball controllers. The Atari 8-bit could be played with the 2600 trackball in joystick mode, but you'll need to play the Centipede Plus homebrew to get the full trackball experience on the Atari 8-bit computers. Defender, programmed by Eugene Jarvis and Samuel Dicker, was released in 1981 by Williams. This game puts players in charge of a ship sent to protect and literally rescue mankind from wave after wave of attacking alien forces. Armed with smart bombs and the ability to use hyperspace to move quickly around the planet, the player must fight against bombers, pods, swarmers, baiters, and landers that can capture the humanoids and transform them into deadly, relentless mutants. Fail to save the humanoids from freefall or mutant transformation, and the planet is doomed. For the 1983 Colecovision port, no programming credit is available, but it's a decent game, and while it looks pretty good, the controls are a little sticky, making it difficult to turn your fast enough to avoid death. One selling point, though, is the multi-button controller on the Coleco, which makes using hyperspace and smart bombs much easier than the Atari 8-bit computer version. The 1982 Atari 8-bit and 5200 versions were both programmed by Steve Baker. While this port is basically Apple II code ported directly to the Atari 8-bit by Baker, it plays very well. I've seen some hand-wringing over it on Atari Mania, and we all would have liked to have seen the Archer McLean version be released by Atari, but as it stands, at least of these two, it's my personal favorite. Note, the smart bombs and hyperspace are just as easy to use on the 5200 as on the Colecovision. This contest was another virtual tie. While I really like the crisp, clean graphics of the Coleco version, I enjoy the 8-bit and 5200 gameplay slightly more. Galaxian, a 1979 Namco arcade machine programmed by Koichi Tashiro, is a fixed sliding shoot-'em-up in which the player is at the bottom of the screen with an arrangement of aliens at the top. The player moves left and right to aim at an alien, then shoots a bullet up the screen. If the alien is hit, it's killed. Aliens are classed as drones, emissaries, hornets, and commanders, with those higher up the screen scoring more points. At set intervals, an enemy will move down the screen towards you, sometimes in formations of 2 or 3, escorting a bomber, which is the most challenging part of the game and scores the most points. Clear a wave, and another is generated. The 1982 Atari 8-bit 5200 version, programmed by Joseph Tung, is a weak port gameplay and sound-wise. While the use of color is outstanding, the game is just not Galaxian, with its erratic movement and speed that is too fast, and sound that seems like the developer just randomly picked the first tones the Poké could generate and threw them into the game. The 1984 Colecovision version, programmed by James Einstein, is by far not just my favorite of these two, but my favorite 8-bit port of this game overall. It oozes what made the Colecovision a dream for cartridge-based game players in 1982 and beyond. Atari should have done much better with their own machines, but they were too focused on milking the 2600 to care about the quality of their 5200 and 8-bit ports. Jungle Hunt is a 1982 arcade release by Taito that offers 4 unique adventure experiences, which repeat with greater difficulty once all 4 have been survived. If you don't survive these adventures, you will not only lose your own life, but that of the lovely Penelope, who has been captured by the cannibals. The first part challenges your Tarzan skills. Can you swing on the vines without plummeting to your doom? The second part pits you against a whole bunch of nasty crocodiles in a mighty river. Fortunately, you have a knife to fight back with. Don't forget to go up for air. In the third part, you face a battle against oncoming boulders of varying sizes and physics. Once you've cleared all of these treacherous hazards, you must confront the dreaded cannibal, who's armed with a wicked spear. Can you get past 2 of them and save the lovely Penelope? The 1983 Atari 5200 and Atari 8-bit versions were programmed by Alan Merrill, and really a little bit more effort needed to be put in 2 areas: the score text and the sound. While the graphics and gameplay are very good, the polish is missing to really push this ahead of the Coleco. I really want to know what they were thinking with the sound, as the music from the arcade would have been a snap to do with the pokey, and the sound on the third screen is just basically static. The 1984 Colecovision version, programmed by David Cart, is a very nice port. It's also missing the music, and while the graphics are a little more bland overall than the Atari 8-bit and 5200, and the vines seem to only be straight in the first level, the gameplay is very fun and easy. I was able to get the furthest in this version, and the spot sounds are a little better than the 8-bit and 5200 versions. So this one is literally a toss-up gameplay-wise. Both ports are very good for their respective machines. I like stages 1 and 2 on the Atari machines and stages 3 and 4 more on the Coleco. Maybe someone will make a hack for both machines that combines the best stages of each and add music to create one 6502 ROM and one Z80 ROM. Okay, that's all for this time. We'll be looking at PC booter versions versus Atari Soft games next time, and because it's a computer, we'll add the ST versions to the mix for a comparison. So until next time, have fun playing Atari Soft game releases on the system of your choice in the vertical blank.
We were children of the Silicon Revolution, an X generation conscripted to fight the console and home computer wars. A product of an analog 70s childhood, we came of digital age in the 80s, believing we could affect the world 8 bits at a time. Armed with joysticks, full-stroke keyboards, Jolt Cola, and MTV haircuts, we proceeded into the vertical blank. There, we stayed up late at night, devising incantations from D&D rulebooks and beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code. Video games were the match, and programming was the fuse, as the infinite possibilities of the digital world exploded into the internet age to come. We are Generation Atari.
Into the vertical blank.
We are the forgotten generation, a misplaced slice of the 20th century when birth rates were as low as expectations for the future. We lived under the threat of constant nuclear annihilation, playing outside, but always inherently knowing the future was indoors. We are the second half of Generation X. We were some of the first to play video games, to program home computers, and record CDs to cassette mixtapes. Our generation was nourished by new wave, imperfect punk rock, and John Hughes movies. We built Web 1.0 from the ground up using our childhood 8-bit and 16-bit programming skills. They call us Gen X. We prefer the vertical blank generation, where magic happens between the lines, because that's where we live, love, and thrive. We are Generation Atari.
Into the vertical blank.
The vertical blank is the space between the last line of the card frame and the first line of the next, where off-screen calculations create a cathode ray tube display. Exists literally between the lines, invisible yet all-seeing, in a void where magic occurs that is never seen, only experienced. The vertical blank is an omniscient force containing the nuances that make our nostalgia a reality. It's the transcendental location that holds our best memories, biggest joys, greatest fears, and our most terrible losses. You've been warned. You can stop this tape now, turn around, for once you've entered, there may be no escape. All the scan lines have been written. It's time to enter the vertical blank.
Into the vertical blank.
Next frame calculated. Prepare to write new data. V blank ending.